They say this is a big rich town. I just come from the poet's part. Bright light, city life, I gotta make it, this is where it goes down. I just happen to come up hard. Legal or illegal, baby, I gotta make it.
I never took a straight path nowhere. Life's full of twists and turns, bumps and bruises. I live, I learn. I'm from that city full of yellow cabs and skyscrapers.
Welcome back to episode 3 of the Divine Physiques Mindset series. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing my coach and mentor, Jacob Schepis from JPS Health and Fitness. Jacob took to the fitness industry back in 2010 and has since built a successful business with 2 studios, boasting great success both in Port Melbourne and Airport West. And today we talk all things mindset around the industry. Stay tuned and thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, Jacob, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Amanda.
Pleasure. So, look, the reason why I brought you on today is because you've been a massive influence in my life for the past 7 to 8 months. I've seen drastic changes in my own mindset, my own business, the way that I think, talk, act and things like that. So my posture overall has elevated as a result of being around your influence, seeing how much of an influence you have in our industry. But I suppose the contradiction about having you on today is that you're so heavily involved in the scientific realms of fitness. I would love to obviously get your take on the mindset side of things. So, I mean, before we sort of get stuck into it, why did you get into the industry first and foremost? So take us back to when it all started.
Yeah, firstly, it's been a pleasure working with you, Amanda, and I'm very flattered by your kind words. So thank you. And
Welcome.
to go back in time to when I was young, dumb, and naive at the age of 19. I was 19 when I got into the fitness industry. I think, like most fitness professionals, I got into the fitness industry because I wanted to learn more about training, nutrition, to be able to solve my own problems. And I'm pretty confident in saying that the vast majority of fitness professionals fall into fitness and coaching, personal training, nutrition, whatever it may be, because they have an interest in that topic, because they are struggling with a certain area of their life that they feel learning more about that can solve. And they end up learning so much about it. They become quite knowledgeable in that area. They help themselves, and then they start to pass that on to other people. And I was, I would fit cleanly into this category because, I had quite a lot of body dysmorphia as a young kid. I thought I was fat, overweight, all that sort of stuff. And
were you ever fat or overweight?
Looking back, no. I was quite healthy, fit, and I was a normal young kid. Sorry, my headphones keep falling out.
That's all right.
But the perception I had of myself was somewhat distorted, and I think that's in large due to the pressure and the ideals that social media and magazines and the media in general place on young women and men in this day and age. So that in large led to me feeling like I was abnormal and I needed to do something to change. And in doing so, I tried to, learn about nutrition, learn about training. I actually became very good at starving myself and, avoiding all foods, carbohydrates, and, training my ass off, which meant I looked pretty damn good. And people saw a rapid transformation in my physique, and they started asking me for advice. And this was all while I was studying law and business. And I thought, hey, there's a lot of people asking me for advice. Maybe I should, look into being a personal trainer. And, I had a lot of friends and family say, oh, you'd be a great personal trainer. You live and breathe it, all those sorts of things. So I did my Cert 3 and 4 while studying my bachelor, and started coaching soon after finishing whatever it was. I think it was like a 12, 16 week course back then.
Yep.
And that's how I got into the industry, man. I started at Recreation Health Club in
Yep.
Essendon.
What year was that?
And that was 2010. Yeah.
Cool.
So 8 years ago now. And things unfolded from there.
So how did you tackle coaching back when you were in the commercial gym? Because I'm going to assume that you took things a little bit more seriously once you opened your own premises and stuff. So were you a bit of a cowboy back in the commercial gym days? Like, how would you explain your training style, how you thought about yourself, your clients, how you ran things, all the rest of it? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so obviously, as you know, Amanda, being in a commercial gym, it's like a shark pit. You know, every man is in it for themselves, which is not a bad thing. You know, that's just the way that the world works. I think there's definitely a right and wrong way to approach, you know, working with other, you know, competitors in the same space. But at the end of the day, they are competitors, and you do need to, you know, make sure that your business not only survives but thrives. And walking into that commercial gym, I was very much, you know, pitted up against experienced, well-established coaches already in that facility. I was the new young kid off the blocks. You know, there were 2 or 3 trainers who had been there for like 10 plus years, had a full client list, and, you know, I was the next, you know, kid on the chopping block, essentially.
Right. How many trainers were there at the time, roughly?
From memory, there was about 4 or 5 full-timers.
Okay, so there weren't many. Yeah, right.
No, there wasn't many, but it was a smaller gym. It wasn't as big as what most other facilities are these days. You know, it's a health club, not a gym. But yeah, so the way I approached it initially was probably incorrect. I was all about the middle finger to the, you know, to the more established and mature trainers. I thought, you know, they're against me and they just want me out, so screw them. And I had a very mature and arrogant way of approaching things. But I soon learned that wasn't actually going to help me. And I got rid of my nose piercing. I got rid of my bleach blonde hair, rid of my, you know, casual clothes. And I thought, if I want people to hire me, they want to hire a professional. I need to look like a professional. I need to talk like a professional. I need to behave. I need to do everything as if I am the best coach in Australia.
Yeah, for sure.
And that was the way I started approaching everything I did.
So how long into it, sorry to cut you off, dude, but how long into it did you sort of start to take things a bit more seriously?
This was after a couple of months, because I realized that I wasn't going to get anywhere with a very lackluster approach. So I cleaned up my act pretty quickly. Started dressing in all black. I wore a stopwatch. I cut my hair, took out the nose piercing. I had, you know, clipboard. I started putting together templates so that, you know, all my clients had, you know, training programs. So I started, you know, playing around with templates back in frickin' 2010. And yeah, it was like, you know, everything from the bookings to sending text messages to my clients, like emails, like logos, starting a Facebook page, website, like all those things. I realized to succeed in any industry, you need to be perceived by potential clients as somebody who's respectable, professional, and, you know, not only talks the talk, but can walk the walk. It doesn't matter how good your game is if you don't look like you can play a good game in this industry, unfortunately, because first impressions count. And I think as personal trainers, when we get new prospects, leads, you know, we've only got a very limited and short window of opportunity to make our mark and to have an impact on them so that they feel like we are the right person for them to invest their money into. And, you know, it'd be nice if we didn't have to worry about, you know, the superficial stuff and, you know, looking the part, so to speak. But the reality is we do. And yeah, it wasn't long before I was taking 30 or 40 sessions a week. And, you know, before I knew it, I was at capacity and had to get my brother and my best mate to work alongside me and start taking sessions for me. And I think within like 2 years, so 2012, you know, between the three of us, we were taking over 100 sessions and we're still paying rent. So I was like, this doesn't make sense. Let's go get our own facility.
Yeah,
You guys
sure.
might as well pay rent to me. And then we don't have to deal with all these other coaches who are trying to, badmouth us and put us down and
100%.
essentially, get rid of us out of their space, because that's what happened in the end. We started to do a great job. People saw, they wanted to work with us, and unfortunately, the other trainers didn't take
Didn't
to
like
that
it.
too well.
Yeah.
So we had to get out of there and do our own thing where we, and for them as well. I did feel like, even though at the start there was a little bit of animosity and whatnot, I matured quite quickly. And realized that, hey, this probably isn't good for you if I'm in your space, and it's probably not good for me that you're in the same space as me. It'll be best if one of us moves. And I was young and dumb enough to make that move.
Sure. And I mean, so there would have been no doubt a bit of fear going into that next step. But I guess you must have handled it pretty well. Now, who or what helps you to prime your mindset on a daily basis? So if you talk about, you have a lot on your plate, Jacob. So you've got 2 studios now, Port Melbourne, Airport West. You've got 15 coaches, a band of staff, and you guys are running 500-600 sessions a week in the gym. Plus you're doing your podcasts, you're educating, mentorshipping, all the rest of it. You've got a lot going on. Plus you've got 2 girls and a partner. Now, how does one build their mindset to run a successful empire every day?
I think you need to start small and be fearless. As simple as that sounds, you need to just continue to step outside your comfort zone, because the more you do that, the more frequently you do that, the better you get at dealing with an array of things. Eventually nothing will be outside your comfort zone, because you've done it all before. And that's how I approach things, taking that next leap in my career to having a facility. And then I guess, which is the cornerstone of, where I am today, is not being afraid to fail. It's so cliche, and we always talk about, don't fear failure. There's no such thing as failure. There is such thing as failure. When you take financial risks, if they fail, you will be bankrupt, right? There is such thing as failure, but the more you expose yourself to unfamiliar situations, the better able you are to handle those difficulties. And I set myself, the challenge of doing something that I'm not comfortable doing every day. And over time, it became a habit and an ingrained way of thinking to seek out new challenges. And with every new challenge comes a new opportunity. And I guess, how I prime my mindset to come full circle back to your question, to be able to run a fitness business. I wouldn't say it's an empire just yet, Amanda, is to not be afraid of doing something different. The fitness industry is very much known for rinse and repeat, monotony, and just continually doing the same thing over and over. People, plagiarize and just follow other people, and there is no stepping outside the box. Like, you got to remember, I opened a facility, personal training studio, when there weren't many personal trainers around. This was back in 2012. Like, this is 5-6 years ago, before every wog and their dog was a personal trainer. Before I didn't know anyone that had a personal training studio. I didn't go to I'd never had a personal trainer. I'd never gone to another, but I just went out and did it. And the fear that came with that was very real. Like, I was nervous, I was scared, don't get me wrong. But you have to learn to use fear to drive action, not to cause you to become paralyzed. So I think, understanding fear and how you respond to it is super important, because you know it's easy to be nervous when you take on an opportunity or a risk, and that's what success is. You can't be successful playing it safe. You can, but it'll take a long time. But if you want to succeed in the fitness industry, you have to be willing to, you know, step outside your comfort zones, think outside the box, and do something differently. And by doing something differently, there's an element of uncertainty. With uncertainty comes fear, and that fear can either make or break you. It will either paralyze you, or it will drive you to get your ass up and to start doing something productive that will move you forward. So I think that understanding of how fear can influence my subsequent behavior was very important. And that came down to, you know, a lot of self-reflection and just, you know, being able to look internally and better understand myself, which I think is a skill set that not many people prioritize. You know, we all want to learn about training, nutrition, dieting, all this kind of stuff, and even mindset. But, you know, very rarely do people actually take a good hard look at themselves and address their own shit. And something I teach a lot of my clients, you know, my mentorship students, is to become more self-aware. So understanding how you think, how you respond to certain situations, you know, the way you behave, why you behave that way. You know, what has made you the person you are today? What has led you to, you know, be a personal trainer, to want to take this next step? Like, what are the pieces in the puzzle that have been put together that have made the picture that is Amanda Mikkelov, you know, in 2018? And I think people get so blindsided by everything in life because it's so fast paced, right? You know, social media, technology, you know, the rat race. We're all just trying to keep our, you know, head above water. And we don't often stop, look at ourselves and get to know who we are well enough to be able to control ourselves. Remember that, like, self-awareness is fucking meaningless if it doesn't allow you to control your thoughts, your feelings, emotions, and your actions and behaviors to align everything towards a direction that you want to take things. Right?
Absolutely.
So I learned all of this stuff back when I was like 21. And
were you reading books or anything? Like, what were you doing? I mean, at 21's a young age, and unless
I was reading a lot of books.
Okay. So tell us about maybe a couple of key books that you might have read, or sort of the strategies that you had in place back then, and like the strategies that you have in place now. And then tell us a bit more about your strategies around the mindset. So if you're doing mindset in the mentorship, do you have it in place of, say, a questionnaire for your guys? Like, how does it work inside the mentorship?
Yeah, cool. So I guess I can't remember off the top of my head a lot of the books that I read back then. I read a lot of motivational interviewing books, so better understanding how to communicate and understand the way that people think. I read, you know, quite a few, I guess, books related to enlightenment, like Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. But I guess, you know, something that was really critical for me was the, you know, stepping stone into the scientific community, because it taught me how to think. It taught me how to be highly critical of the decisions I make as a coach. And that started to stem into everything that I did, from the way I thought, you know, my beliefs and opinions on religion, on politics. So there was like this trickle down effect, you know, into everything I did. And it really started to open my eyes towards, you know, critical thinking and how to better understand myself, the decisions I make, and why. So I guess that answers that question. And in terms of like strategies for mindset, you know, obviously it's like any goal. When you want to improve something, you need to make it measurable, right? Like, you know, using SMART goals. It needs to be measurable, needs to be specific, needs to be actionable, right? It needs to have timeframes on it. And you need to make sure that you can actually reverse engineer from whatever your goal is, and then plan ahead the steps necessary to get there. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. They'll say, I want to improve my mindset, and they start doing fucking meditation. Well, it's like, that's great. Where's that leading?
Yeah.
How are you improving at that? Do you have something in place? And this is where, again, the science and understanding, research and literature really came into place, because the scientific method is all about developing a hypothesis, testing it, measuring it, assessing it, evaluating, and then making, adjustments based on that.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Because you have information there to guide your next decision. And I think this should be applied, in how we come up with strategies for mindset. So I think, identify areas that you either want to improve or weaknesses that you may have. And then that is your overarching goal. And then from there, you need to come up with actionable strategies on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, so that you can measure things. So for example, you might need to relax more, because that's going to improve your mindset, your clarity, and your ability to think and be more productive when you're at work. So you then implement meditation. So you might aim to meditate 5 to 10 minutes a day. That's great. You're ticking that box. But the purpose of meditating was to improve your clarity and productivity at work. So how are you measuring that? And this is where I think a lot of people go wrong. We address mindset almost exclusively from measuring other components of our life. I think if we measure mindset, like our mindset, we only care about it so much as it affects all these other areas in our life, like our relationships, our financial well-being, our fitness and physique related goals, our business. It's like, good, we're addressing mindset, but is it actually fucking improving the areas that we want to be focusing on? Or is it just some bullshit thing that we do on the side? And this is where people get lost. They go do the mindset stuff and they get so caught up in it that they end up doing nothing more than piss fighting around on a fucking mat in a park and losing their marbles.
But I guess mindset could be, I see what you're saying, but mindset and doing meditation and yoga and fucking Pilates or whatever else, right? So it's one thing to be relaxed. It's another to actually prime your brain for the day and actually take action. So there are different, I suppose there's different
ways to approach it.
And what I want to know is, like, do you agree that there's a big hole in the industry for coaches who just aren't focusing enough on mindset specific programs for their clients? So we're all doing sets, reps, nutrition, and it's all starting to sound like one big blur. And I think for me personally, I've felt for a very long time amongst the coaching community that mindset hasn't been the primary focus, and that it doesn't need to be this fluffy thing, that it can be very much a in your face, this is what's fucked in your life, this is what needs fixing, this is how you can do it. Like giving proper tools and strategies like we discussed for Mindset Camp. Again, do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think the role of psychology isn't fluffy at all. I think, any mental health issue or illness is something that's quite serious and needs to be treated as such. And this is where we run into problems. So you have to remember, what are fitness professionals qualified to do? Right. We're qualified to coach, teach exercise, write basic programs, rehab, prehab, give very loose guidelines around nutrition. But we're not counselors or psychologists. We're not qualified to do that. So doing anything related to those areas is acting outside our scope of practice, which is why I think, Amanda, that a lot of people, stay away from that. I don't think there's a coach in the world who would disagree with you that mindset and psychology is important. I'm 100% with you that usually is the primary roadblock from somebody achieving their fitness goals. However, we have to be very careful in how we address that, because if something were to go wrong and that client potentially sues us, we are liable and our career is ended. And all of a sudden we have a lot of, cases that can be made against a lot of personal trainers when, that's used as, common law and applied across the industry. So I'm with you. I think how coaches need to address that is to, again, give very loose and, non-specific guidelines, prescribing your client to do, certain things such as, take a supplement for their mental well-being, that is outside of our practice. I think telling your client to write down 3 things that they, love about themselves, or, 3 ways they're going to improve their productivity. I definitely think that's within the scope of practice. But again, I think that at the end of the day, our job is confined to a certain area. And although the mindset and psychology hugely influences, what we do with the physiology, I just think it's a very, very murky area of coaching that I definitely feel needs addressing, and which is why I work alongside some registered psychologists. And if I have a client who, potentially is starting to have binge eating, or I see body image, issues rise, and things are not necessarily where they should be from a mental health standpoint, I refer them out, which I think is great practice for a lot of coaches. When you're in doubt, refer out. But I've also got clients who I do work with, and, I try to help them with some basic behavior modifications. And this is where I think, again, personal trainers can step in and help a little bit more with the behavior modification side, because we know that can improve our mindset, because obviously what we do on a daily basis impacts our outcomes, and that can alter our mood, our productivity, our stress levels, and all these things.
Sure. So as you know, because we've done it together, so Mindset Camp that you helped me put together was definitely knowing what was within scope of practice and what obviously would be overstepping the mark. So it would be, look, the way to describe it for anyone listening would be that it's pretty much a general guideline for how to structure your day to get the most out of it, pretty much. So all it does is it gives people a little bit more structure, tools for planning, tools for priming mindset, such as silly as listening to an audiobook or watching something on YouTube, and doing these things repeatedly over a long period of time. Surely that can't be overstepping the mark in the industry, because if these are things that we do on a day-to-day basis to stay primed as coaches, who's to say we can't give that advice back to our clients, but package it in such a way that, if people are paying for this program, or you're giving it to them for, your more premium clients, for example, they are given something that comes in a booklet that they can refer back to time and time again. So I think that it's one thing to coach clients on the floor during sessions, and that's where we do our best mindset coaching. While we're in the heat of the moment, emotions are high. Sometimes our clients are at their most vulnerable during a coaching session. They bring all their emotions to our sessions and things like that. And again, that's where we can penetrate our clients mentally. And you've done that with me personally as well during our sessions, because I come there, I come to learn. And so I'm like a sponge. I take on everything you say. And sometimes just from that one session alone, that pep talk could stick with me for 1 or 2 weeks after that. So, but again, having a basic general program in place, I can't see it being without anyone's scope of practice, and it being more of a focus in the industry. It's just, I see why people step around it, but I also can't understand why people aren't harnessing more of it. It's a highly undervalued commodity in our industry. It's why clients coach hop, because they're just not getting the connection they need from their coach. And again, you can agree or disagree, but at some point they're going to lose that connection with a coach because the coach didn't get them at the level that they needed them to be at. I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, again, I think that, I'm not in agreement or disagreement. I'm very much on the fence with this one. I think it is something that we need to be willing and open-minded to, and having programs within your practice that can help your clients, address, psychological limitations and barriers, modify their behavior or their way of thinking, their perception and so on. I think that's a great thing. Again, the issue arises if somebody falls into, the area of mentally unhealthy.
That's different. Yeah.
if they're classified with mental health issues, diagnosed with mental health issues,
Yeah.
then giving them advice or even addressing that with them is potentially dangerous.
Yeah.
And this is where it becomes tricky, because we don't know how, as coaches, we don't know how to, identify whether or not somebody does have mental health issues. It takes a while. And that's why psychologists are, qualified and registered to be able to, assess and, mark against certain criteria, whether or not somebody does have mental health issues. And then they know how to diagnose and, prescribe the appropriate intervention, treatment from there. So I think, if we have these programs in place, if they're very general in nature, addressing things like, motivation, lifestyle choices, and, how to improve, things like productivity to, make better use of your time so that you can achieve your fitness goals. I think if there's a reoccurring theme that, it's related to fitness, but you can use these concepts in other areas of your life, I think that is likely going to be within our scope of practice. And a safer way to approach things, from a legality standpoint, than, starting with cool. So we're going to address binge eating disorder. We're going to start talking about, healthy body image, and we're going to change, your relationship with food, like all these kind of things. I think that's very, a very treacherous path to walk down. But like I said, I think if there's that constant undertone of, hey, this is just going to make you better at fitness. I think that's definitely fun.
Cool. All right. All very interesting, and it's good to see the two different points of view, but very similar and same at the same time. So, do you have any questions for me, boss?
I've never been interviewed and asked to ask a question. This is good. What have you seen to be the most common issue that your clients face when they're trying to achieve a fitness goal, such as lose weight, build muscle, so on and so forth? What's the common thing that you deal with? What roadblocks do you face on a very regular basis?
Well, I deal primarily with Gen Pop. So mindset obviously is the first main issue, which is why I'm so heavily predicated on the fact that, if I can work with their mindset in the way that I work with my own mindset, then hopefully I can help them break through in every other area, such as fitness and nutrition being the priority, because I'm their coach at the end of the day. I'm not trying to go too deep into everything else. With that said, look, it could be like when it's a change of weather, as soon as it goes from summer to winter, people really struggle to make it to the gym. If I'm away for a week or a couple of weeks or whatever, some people may not be at the gym. So I try and do my best to make people independent, and I give them a lot of information, content, templates and things like that they can utilize to pretty much create a roadmap to what they have to do. They know what they need to do. Keeping them on track a very long time is, getting them to understand their why is the big thing. I think it's the big theme of you've got the advantage of dealing with majority athletes or people that just really want to go to that next level. I think working in a commercial gym, as you know, it's just anybody trains there, and they're just looking for that one trainer that's going to stand out on the board. And I've been very fortunate to attract a lot of clients. However, I'm still dealing with people that just battle getting out of bed some days, or, they have a stressful day and suddenly they can't fucking train, and whereas us, we have a stressful day and we can't wait to get in the gym type thing. So it's, like you say, reverse engineering, using that fear or that pain to our advantage to keep us motivated. Hope that makes sense and I wasn't mumbling on too much.
Awesome. Yeah. No, that was good. That was a great answer. I think you addressed a lot of really good points. To recap that, I would say that, getting to their why is super important, and finding out what it is they love about training. So it can be something they look forward to, you know, like you and I do, because I think when people enjoy what they do, they're more inclined to do it, and they will do it with more effort and for longer
100%.
durations, which I think is key for success in any fitness goal.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess before we wrap up, like if you have clients or have had clients in the past that, you know, you see them go really, really well, and all of a sudden they just lose this self-belief and they fall backwards and they fall into a bit of a hole. What have you done to sort of just pull people out? Like, you're given those hard talks. What are some things that you say in those hard talks to get people out of a dark spot and back on track with their training?
Yeah, so I think those hard talks, they typically address what the client doesn't want to hear, but knows is true. I don't think there's anything that I say in particular, but I think that would be it. If there was, you know, what makes the talk hard? It's talking about the elephant in the room, you know, addressing whatever it is that the client is ignoring or doesn't want to talk about for whatever reason. And, you know, more often than not, it usually is something quite deep or, you know, it's going to spark some emotion. And, you know, for example, talking to an overweight client not too long ago, he's got 2 young kids and, you know, he wasn't getting his diet together. And I said, you know, why aren't you, you know, able to stick to your diet? He said, mate, you know, eating healthy costs a lot, and I said to him, I said, how much is it going to cost you when, you know, cost you and your family when you die in, you know, 5-10 years and your kids aren't even 8 yet? I said, what's the cost to them? And, you know, I think that was a bit of a shock to him. He didn't expect that. But it's what he needed to hear, right? It's what he needed to hear, not what he wanted to hear. And I think as a coach, we have to always find that balance between, you know, telling our clients what they want to hear, and then giving them that hard sell, which is what they need to hear.
Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. Well, Big Boss, I think we'll leave it there for today. But before we run away, if people want to learn more about your mentorship or any of your programs or templates, how is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Head to the website, www.jpshealthandfitness.com.au, and check us out on social media. Just search JPS Health and Fitness.
Awesome. On Instagram as well? Same?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Yeah.
All the same. Same name, same company.
Awesome.
Same ugly head behind the camera.
You're not bad. You do all right. You need a shave butt. You need to cut your hair. You need to make this a bit shorter.
Yes. I'm just going for the bare look.
Yeah, I know. It's that time of year.
No, thanks for having me on, Amanda. I appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks for watching, guys.
Hibernation.
Yes, definitely. I will link all of those links down below. So make sure that you guys check out JPS and Jacob's crew. He puts out some really awesome content each day, each week, especially on the Instagram story. So Big J, thank you very much. And have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you soon.
You too, man. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Ciao.
See you, Amanda.
A hard knock, shots pop, bodies drop, graveyard, pick a block, cause niggas want your spots. I'm tryna stack shit, then I go legit. Hollow tips, stuff them in the clip, case niggas trip. My cocaine and